End of year reflection, even though I'm posting this in the new year, but I'm recording this on the 31st just to make awareness of it. I actually want to start the video by saying I recorded a whole thing about this topic just now, like spent almost 45 minutes recording, and I don't want to post any of it because it just doesn't vibe with what I'm trying to say. Like this video, I want to talk about my year reflection, but the way that I was talking about it was so like, it was like I was experiencing it again, and that's truly not how I want to go about this video, because I want to talk about how I learned about everything and what I've come to now. And if I want to compare anything, it's just exactly how it was last year. So I was literally I was looking on my Instagram, going through each month about what I was going through, and I was like, oh my gosh, I literally post about this on my YouTube already. So I'm like, okay, let's just do a reflection. Here, January me would have not thought I would have been sitting where I am right now, doing what I'm doing. Because last year, okay, let's just start. Last year, I did the countdown so upset and really just in my feels over the fact that I didn't have anyone to say Happy New Year to, like personally be like, Happy New Year, you know? Even the roommate that I was staying with, I didn't even say Happy New Year to him like right away because like he had someone. So I was alone, and our relationship wasn't like getting the best anyway. So I was just like dealing with things all alone in my room. I was doing TikToks to forget about the countdown time. It was so sad. This year I am sitting alone. I am planning to do the countdown myself, but I feel different though. Last year was a complete embodiment of like being lonely, and like saying out loud how lonely I am, saying how isolated I am, because during that time was when I was realizing like I was not aligning with the people in my life anymore. Like I was going through a crazy spiritual transition that started August last year, and then things started catapulting like towards the end of the year. So come January, I was like, I'm starting this year solo. Like I'm starting this year completely like feeling alone. And I just didn't know how to react, because every year before that, and this is without like my opening my eyes or anything, but I would party and stuff like that. So I was hoping last year would have been a vibe like that. So that was also another thing. I was experiencing FOMO, but also COVID was going on last year, that time too. So also not hard feelings. Said a lot of alsos just now. I remember the first 4 months. Let's do it in seasons. So my winter season was a really hard time. Like I was already kind of backing away from people before, like November, December. Like I gave space towards my brother and my friends. I was just trying to figure out like what was going on in my head. I was like, why do I feel so lonely around people? Like I don't get it. And then so I didn't talk to them much in December, and January came around, and I was like, hey, I've been kind of like isolating myself for too long and things like that. So I tried to put myself out there again, but I was battling a lot during the beginning of the year, because I was living with people that, you know, didn't want the best for me, gave me bad energy every day. So it was just very intolerable. So I was trying to just focus on just my work at that time, I remember, because even doing more than that seemed too much for anyone's energy to handle. I don't know why I saw it like that. I was just like, I can't fully be my spiritual self and my OnlyFans self and like all these things, because like having just my OnlyFans self is overwhelming for people. And then me starting to like wake up and then posting like all these revelations that I'm going through, like, and all those things, I guess it just made people feel like, oh, she thinks she's better than us, or like, oh, we don't resonate with her anymore. Or like I've had like snide remarks about like my tarot reads, because I would post them on my TikToks, and I don't know, I just truly started feeling like my surroundings were just keeping me bubbled, but I didn't know how to let them go, because I've already let so many people go in my life that I was like, I'm supposed to let my brother and like friends go too, like these friends that I have currently. It was crazy. And come April, that's when I was the most like lack. The bank was calling me to close the banks. I was so low on money, so low on any kind of connections and support that I was just like, I can't see a way out of this. And then after getting like support online and just really flourishing on that, I was like, hey, I think I'm able to keep the peace in this house. Oh my gosh, so much burning. I think I'm able to keep the peace in this house if I focus on my online community, because they really do keep me happy. If I just focus on that and I focus on what does make me happy, which at the time was going to the gym. I went to the gym 6 times a week just to get myself out of the house and just distract myself. And because I genuinely liked working out, it was just helpful. I was like, yeah, I'm just be at the gym. And if I wasn't at the gym, I was just out in nature, out in like parking lots, just like by the water, sitting there. Even during the winter times, like I would just be sitting there. Let me get a cute bit. Look, I remember this day, I was like, I'm gonna romanticize my life. I'm romanticizing my life. Because I just felt like if no one sees the value of me in these relationships that I have around me, I'm gonna learn how to value myself. Like, I know I can do great things. I know I can really, like, I have so much light and love within me. There's no way that like these people around me can't see it. I need to see it for myself. And that's when I started like having this shift in January. I was like, no, I'm romanticizing my life because it looks fucking good. Because it is good. Life is good. And I was trying to embody that energy so hard for the winter months and just to get myself through it, honestly. Honestly, it was just really hard, you know, when you have people who you thought were your support system slowly go to like, it was just hard watching people who were my friends start to hang out with my roommates. And it wasn't like I was trying to keep them choosing a side, but it was just like, you guys know what they have done to me and you're still choosing to just spend time with them more. I need to value myself and get out of this. I'm not putting my worth in people who don't see it anymore. This is getting frustrating, and I was getting really frustrated about it. Like, I remember in April was that time, but then I went to a cottage with I'm gonna say the connections I had with it in my life, because I don't want to call them ex-friends, you know, and I don't want to say, oh, I could say people in my past, I guess. But I went to the cottage with them for someone's birthday, and I remember, so we took shrooms. We were all vibing, laughing, and at one point the shrooms did the unblocking thing and I fucking broke down. I broke down to them and I got to share, like, I've been depressed for the longest time. Like, I was doing a whole fake it till you make it energy because I just didn't know how else to operate. I was like, if no one can bring me this confidence or bring me this thing to just keep going with my days, like, I have to do it for myself or else I will literally wither. I was not flourishing in that kind of environment at all when I was putting my faith and self-worth in other people at all, because I wasn't even getting compliments from them. So what was the point of that? So then during that shroom trip, I got to tell everyone that was there about my status of how I was feeling and everything. And you know, there was only one person that said something to me and hugged me that whole time. So it was just crazy to experience that, because at that time I was like, oh, it's because they just don't know. And what even prompted me to say it was, I was like, I'm in a room with people and we're all laughing and they have no idea how depressed I am right now. So I wanted to share it. And for the next few weeks after that, everyone was nicer to me and everyone tried to hang out with me a little bit more. But I still felt so lonely because no one ever tried to actually get to know me or ask about my work or ask about anything that I was doing. And it was so frustrating because I was like, I truly feel like I'm doing some big things here. And every time I did bring it up myself, I got met with, that's cool. Like, do you want to elaborate after that? Not really. So I got stuck in that kind of energy from like for the spring season. I was just, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to also let them go, because I've already let go of so many people in my life. And just even in Hamilton alone, of being here hit June, I already tried to open up and explore romantic interests 2 times after, and it didn't work out because abandonment wounds got triggered. Like, I'm just easily ghostable, and that does stem from just being constantly abandoned when I was younger. So now I guess I was back then, I was used to resonating with that energy, just having people show interest in me. Like, I was so used to being breadcrumbed. I would take it. My parents breadcrumb me, my mom, you know, so I'm used to breadcrumbing. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, they're giving me a little bit, I'll take it. Oh, they'll ghost me for a little bit, I'll accept it if they come back, like, you know. And it just drove me crazy at one point, because I'm like, why am I just letting this happen? Like, it breaks my heart, but I'm letting this happen. And one of the interests was like hitting abandonment wounds hard with that, in that regard, and just like the emotional unavailability trigger. But the second one, every time that I have been abandoned in the past, whether it was like from friends or past relationships, I never really got to know why, because I just never kept contact with them in any kind of way, like didn't follow them or anything. But then, so I never knew really why they abandoned me or what ended up happening to them until like months or years after. But by that point, I really didn't have them in my mind. But the second love interest, I remember it like sparking that, like, when they abandoned me, it hit a self-worth nerve, because every time I got abandoned, I did try to make it aware going into the new year that like my self-worth was something I wanted to work on this year. I remember going into that this year because something happened in December where it really broke my heart, and I was just like crying about it so hard. And it was something from a bird's eye view that was easily like avoidable, or easily like not taken too seriously. Like the relationship was like, the connection was not heading anywhere deep at all, but I was just yearning for like how nice he was. And that was crazy, because that's just me coming from like my ex, who I just felt like hurt me so often that I forgot what a nice person was. So I was holding on to this person just because they were nice. But when the second person happened and the abandonment happened, at first I was like, hey, I'm not putting my self-worth in this person, in a person who abandons me. Like, I'm just going to move on from this. Fine. Like, it sucks that I never get to know anything, and I just have to move on from not knowing anything and be on with it. But then I got like I had a sit down with a friend who told me like what happened during that abandonment, and like that they had like gone with someone else after. And I was just like, that was a trigger self-worth in its own that I didn't expect, because I didn't know I was carrying it for so long. I was used to the abandonment part and figuring out that, but I forgot, and this triggered a memory in me, that like everyone in my life growing up chose someone else, like except my grandparents, because with them it was just a language barrier. I hold them so dear to my heart. But like with my dad, he would choose his partner, or his partner back in the day like was so abusive to me, so he would choose her, or he would choose my brother over me. And I mainly lived with my dad growing up, so that affected me so hard. When I found that news, I was like, oh shit, okay. And it wasn't even like, oh, I'm second place. It wasn't that. It was just like, wow, I'm just not worth it enough to get to know. Like, I just felt like all those wounds about how no one ever wanted to get to know me, how no one took the time to ask me questions, no one like wants to know my side of anything, like all of those got triggered when that situation happened. I remember feeling so shook for a week, being like, this is a harder heartbreak than my ex, who I just spent a year and a half with, and this person I had only known for 2 weeks, and they triggered all this within me. What the heck? But yeah, when I look back at it now, I'm grateful for the time. I really would not have become the person I am and the way I view relationships if it wasn't for that final event that came into my experience, because every love experience is a mirror. So just for me to experience that and see it like that was enough. And you know, he was the first person in a very, very long time that I kind of put on a pedestal. Like, I said so many great qualities I liked about him, and when the separation happened, I was just like reflecting back on it, because I had never put anyone on a pedestal like that when it came to my love life. So I was like, why did I do that? And so one day during my homeless journey, actually, I just was just like, I'm going to become all those traits that I put them on a pedestal for. I am going to be a very confident leader. I am going to do things out of my heart that's really great for the people around me. I am going to just trailblaze through my life. Like, if I want to experience something new, I'll just do it. Like, if I want to do something, I'll just do it. Because that person, like, helped me embody singing. And because singing is something about my inner child. Like, I've always wanted to be a singer when I was little. So to just hear, because oh my gosh, it would just put me off track one day because he was just like, sing. And I was like, so I'm grateful to have met him, because he was the first person ever to ask me to sing since I was young, since I was a child. Because when I was a child, I used to perform in front of my grandparents and like my uncles and stuff, like do singing and dancing performances, and I've never ever thought of doing something like that again, like that I'm actually enjoying in front of other people to do since that moment. So because that, in a sense, why I'm so grateful for that moment was because every time I felt like I needed power in the house, like I wanted to call in power for myself, just like whenever I felt like I was getting bullied in the house, and things like that, like I would sing in the shower, I would sing while I was cooking, I would sing in my room when I felt like overpowered by some darkness. So I'm really grateful for that time. And there's just a lot of like reflective things that I noticed, like after opening up my awareness to reflections and to seeing people as mirrors. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, the next time I even got to like see someone was when I was doing a social experiment while I was homeless. When I was finally feeling really good and like having a routine being out there, I was so bored and yearning for connections that I downloaded Tinder. And that was a social experiment because I would tell them, like, I wanted to talk to people and be like, yeah, we could go on a date, but I'm homeless. I'm letting you know I'm homeless. And I want to see how they react. I ended up going on 2 dates. The first date that I went on, I traveled a bit for it. I was staying in Hamilton at the time and they were in Toronto, but I went there and it was a really nice hangout, but he did gaslight me during the date and I noticed it. I even called him out for it during the date, and just I was met with, you weren't like this before tequila, maybe it's the tequila that you're like this. And I was like, yep, this is not for me. And I still stayed with him that night because I was like, I drove here. So I stayed the night and stuff, and we talked so much. We even did like this reflections test that I posted on my TikTok. If you're curious about that, please let me know. I'll explain it down below. But we did a really intense reflections test that I'm super like, whoa, that happened with. And the next day it just like back to ghosting. And then he would text me a couple days here and there, and I'm like, I'm not for this breadcrumbing shit. Like, as much as I'm yearning for a connection right now so badly, I don't deserve this shit. And it was so nice to just tell him that. Like, I didn't ghost him back after we talked a bit, because I'm not gonna share this part, but there was something we were talking about, and the way that he was responding to me, I was like, I am so done with dealing with hard things alone in my life when I have a partner. Like, it's so frustrating, and it's like just the biggest trigger, especially coming out of my of that year and a half relationship, like, no, I am not doing that anymore. I want someone who's as emotionally aware and in tune as me, and has enough emotional intelligence to read it off me too, kind of thing, because I can do it back. So that's what I want, and he wasn't giving that. So after I cut things off, I remember him being like, yeah, we shared a really great like night and connection though, I think this could go further. And I was like, you don't give me literally the bare minimum. So no, so proud of myself that day. And there's a lot of things I was just taking, like when I watch old clips of my homeless journey, about how I started it and how it ended, because my homeless journey was my summer. Like my winter was me like cultivating ideas on like how I can get out of my space, and just like being in my head too, just like experiencing a lot of lack and just not knowing where I stood with anything or anyone, but knowing that I wanted to take back my power. And then during spring was when things were happening in that sense, where I was cutting people off now. Like in June, I ended up even cutting off my brother and my friends at the time, because I remember I was so upset after finding out that news about like that abandonment, and I just wanted to go out. And everyone that I asked, which was everyone I was hanging out with, because my circle got so small at this point, I only asked her like my circle, and everyone gave me like an excuse when everyone was free. So I was like, man, you don't even have work or anything to say, and you could have just said you didn't want to go to the event, but instead they were giving me excuses. And I was like, I am done with this kind of energy. Like, I wanted to go out for once, because now for once I could afford it. Now for once I just wanted to actually go out and have fun, because I've missed by this time so many weekends of people going out, and I used to just love doing that, like love going out, experiencing things all the time. But like since February I didn't go out, and then by the time it hit June I finally had money to do that. So then I was like, wow, okay, when I'm sad, when I want to go out, no one's here for me, no one's gonna do anything. So I cut everyone out after that. And yeah, but I cut my last friend off because as much as I was trying to hold on to her, because she was the only one who gave me the space to talk about things and comforted me with like hugs and all that stuff, what ended up doing it for me was me sharing my trauma with her about what happened with me and my ex, and just seeing her slowly spend more and more time with him and like the group they were hanging out with, and then me just like coming home from the gym and just seeing like her hanging out with them like all the time at the house. Like I was like, I didn't want her to choose a side, but it just sucked that it felt like I was losing the last person I had to someone who hurt me so bad, and I just didn't want to share that type of energy anymore. And I truly know how much talking behind my back happened with everyone in my life back then. So there's no regrets on me leaving everyone behind. But yeah, it was like spring was that kind of like I'm putting my actions behind my words. But then summer happened with like the homeless journey, and I think what I'm so grateful for with the summer was my resilience. It was really painful, very transformative, so dark and deep, but I got myself through that shit. Like there were so many times where I was like, oh my gosh, that was a really hard thing that I just overcame, and I'm still homeless, and I'm still going through it, and I'm still gonna just find the acceptance of being out here. Because I remember having this one day where I was like so lonely, so yearnful, and I just was crying all day about it. And then the next day I was just sitting in that same spot, and that day when I was crying too, it was rainy and stuff, so I don't know if that contributed, but the next day it was sunny and bright. So then I sat in the same spot and I was like, you know what, I have to see the silver lining of this. I think I am out experiencing homelessness because homelessness is something that I am striving to advocate for. Like just humanizing people in all of its stages, in all of its things, just realizing that can happen to you, because it literally happened to me and I did not know this was the direction of my life at all. And So just to be out there and just see other homeless people and see how they were experiencing things, I was like, this is humbling me so much. Like, I am grateful for the summer of my homeless journey because it has taught me humility in a way that I am, like, it transformed me. Because not only did I also spend days where I didn't eat, and I was literally like looking for random places for food, to know that part, and just like feeling so dirty and not knowing how to like approach other people because of how dirty you were. Like, I can't imagine how it is for anyone doing it longer than I have, you know? Like 3 months was so hard for me and so much. But I talked to people who were out there for years. At one point, not only were my therapists like really holding a light for me during my homeless journey, because I got to see them 3 times a week, and every time I got to see them, they brought so much good energy to me, like the validation on like how far I'm coming, how far I work, how I'm an entrepreneur, how I'm doing this and that for my life, like all of that validation that I was starting to feel within. But hearing it now, I was like, oh fuck, this is gonna fuel me right up. And then making like significant friendships through TikTok, and then having her help me so much, like it was just knowing I'm attracting so much support that are actually aligned with me during my homeless journey. I was like, man, now that I have nothing, here are the people who are supporting me. Here are the people showing up for me. Because it broke my heart knowing every day I was in a city that I knew people, but no one would talk to me. And I was like, damn, like I genuinely thought I'm a nice person, but just to have that reaction, I was like, okay. That's why that's why I think imposter syndrome holds so heavy for me, because I know what I'm doing is great. I know what I'm doing is for the greater good, and it's for not being so genuine, so kind, but not hearing it from my surroundings. I was like, I don't even know if that's for me, if I'm doing a good thing or not. So when I was hearing it for once, I was like, this is lighting me up. And then after just seeing myself light up over and over, and then just seeing how things were attracting to me, coming to me, I was like, this is what it was. This is truly what it was. And things started turning around when I made the change to start working again. Because when I first became homeless, I stopped working. Like, I would still network and stuff and be on Twitter, be on my social medias, like I would do that, but I wasn't on like my OnlyFans or my other sites that I do sex work on, because I just didn't feel like sexy. And also, like, a part of me was thinking it was better to not be so active on those when I'm homeless, just in case, safety, whatever. And then when I made the switch where I was like, okay, no, there's no one out here saving me financially. Like, I gotta make the money on my own. Like, my bank account is about to close. I have things that I gotta pay for. Like, I can't rely on someone. My friend who was helping me, she's a college student, so I was like, I'm not relying on her for these finances. Like, she's already helping me so much, so much. And you know, I'm just gonna make my own money. The first month that I decided to do that, or my first pay, because one of my sites that I have does bi-weekly payments. So when I went back on there again, that first bi-weekly payment, I made enough to just make me be like, oh my gosh, I can fucking do this. I'm making money for myself. I can do this. Everything started coming. Like, it was just so great. And then eventually I had one moment where I was super burnt out, because I was like weeks of like working like this. I was like, yeah, let's get this working. But by the second week I was like burnt out. And that's when Cushy actually reached out to me, because I had posted on Twitter. I was like, hey y'all, I'm in need of some help, blah blah blah. Like, I didn't post on Twitter before this about like I posted about my accident, but because it's so hard for me to ask for help, it took me a long time to ask for help. Like, at one point I opened up like a community donation thing for PayPal, but it didn't even reach like 10% of the goal. So I felt very discouraged, but then in a way, just having it be there, I was like, no, I'm still gonna work for myself though. And then because it was a timed event, so after a month passed and I didn't really get anything out of it, I was like, no, okay, that shows me more than anything I got this on my own. And not in a way where I won't ask for help, but I got this, you know? Because during my homeless journey, I would be like, I would want help in any kind of way. So yeah, then after moving here, I got to be reintegrated with people again, and that was an adventure on its own. Like, just feeling how closed off I was at first when I first stayed here compared to how I am right now is so amazing. Like, I remember one time she asked me what my plans were, and instantly I got so scared that she was gonna abandon me and like kick me out and everything. That was my first thought. And now when she asks me questions, I don't react like that. So it's just super nice. I gained all the weight I lost when I was homeless. I lost throughout the year because I spent so much time like when I was prioritizing rent, I wasn't feeding myself. When I was homeless, I couldn't feed myself. So I had a lot of weight fluctuations throughout this year based on my eating habits, and I'm so glad. Like, I'm so thankful I could lose and gain weight this easily. Like, I'm grateful, because at one point I saw myself and I saw my collarbones, saw my ribs. That's when I first moved in here. I was so skinny to the point where like my arms, like you could just see like the bone itself. Like, you don't really see any of this. Like, even this was gone, and this is like the most stubborn part about my body here, and this was gone, and I was like, that's a concern. So just to be back at this weight and just feel this good, I have come into my power so nicely. Like, even being here, I've had to set my boundaries, and I would get nervous like in the beginning, because I'm like, how can I set my boundaries when someone's kind of offering me this? Like, I was scared that if I stood up for myself, this is gonna get taken away, because it seemed like, just like, this is what I thought in the course of the year. Every time I stood up for myself, I lost something. And it took me a long time to realize that is a blessing in itself too, because if you stand up for yourself and they can't respect it or handle it, they shouldn't be in your life, you know? And those things that are attached with it are not meant for you then, if you have to give up or hide parts of yourself, you know? So when I finally felt the confidence within myself to say these boundaries to her without getting scared I'm gonna get kicked out, was a revelation on its own, because I started being like, when this happens, I feel this, and then I get triggered. Because like the beginning of me staying here, like there would be moments where I get triggered and just keep it within. And that was me noticing that I did that at the old house, wherever I was. Like, and if I get triggered, I would try to internalize it, forget it, blah, 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 and never address it. And that's the thing. I feel like my abandonment moods got like into a complete cycle now, because I don't abandon myself anymore. And I say that like I stand up for myself in every space I'm in. And if I don't feel called to, then only because I don't want to like say something all the time yet, when first things happen to me, I wait for it to happen again, just to see, because you never know about, for me, I never know the first time, because I truly just don't know if that's something that they lean on, like where they won't take the boundary, right? Or like if it's like a constant action or not. Like, I just don't want to assume by the first time. So yeah, I give a little bit of leeway, but I'm just glad that this year I've lost so many people, but I'm still open to newer connections. My therapist even was saying, she's like, you being vulnerable and just accepting to come here and try it out, even though you're scared of how people are, and you going to your crochet classes and trying to make friends through that, and trying all these date nights by yourself, just doing so much by yourself again, but also being open to talking to people, is just full circle in itself. And I'm just so proud of myself for that, because I was really worried, especially during the homeless journey, that like I just wouldn't be able to open up again, just because of the past 3 years especially. And I'm so glad I'm doing that because I can really see myself flourish now. Like my therapist also is like, it seems like you really die in the places that don't value you and flourish so much in places you do. And I'm like, I completely agree. If this year taught me anything, I completely agree. That's why I will keep myself in spaces that I feel good in and really avoid places I don't, because why are you forcing yourself to be in places you don't feel good in? Like I literally almost died doing that. Like it's not worth it ever. I mean, would I suggest just jumping ship and going homeless? No. But it was a lesson personally for me because I used to be very emotionally reactive and do the most with it sometimes. And it would lead me in a lot of like sticky situations. So, I mean, that lesson in itself was just a lesson in itself, like jumping into my car like that. But I learned everything I needed to. And I'm still gonna learn so much about myself and so much about the universe. I am so in tune. I'm so in love with myself. Like nothing can, if last year January energy even tried with me going into this year, it wouldn't even penetrate the outer level. Like my vibe is just like, nope. It won't even accept that into my reality. Like things that are so negative just automatically even stay away from me now. Like I've brought myself through hell and back so much this year. So much. I literally rebuilt, reparented, fucking did everything by myself. And I am so proud of myself. Like so good. Honestly, so good. So good. This year. I hope that this brings any like thoughts on if you're having a really hard time in your life. No, it will pass if you want it to pass. And I'm not just gonna say it's just gonna pass, because I found that in moments of my desperation, when I was like in a lack mentality, whenever I heard like it'll pass or you know things will get better, like those are nice things to hear, but like it didn't provide me. I guess I'm a little bit goal oriented though, because I needed to know like this encourages you that there won't be a dark time forever if you won't let it. Like I felt like if I kept hearing, especially during times of desperation or lack mentality or just feeling super down, whenever I heard like you'll be okay, this and that, this will pass, like it's just such common stuff to hear. But when you add the intention of this won't last forever if you don't want it to, that gives you more accountability for your grief too, because you are responsible for the grief too. Like if shitty things happen to you and you're sad about it, that's still your responsibility. Because please try to see it as a way of when things happen to you, it's still for you no matter what. If you learn to not take things personally, you'll see how like each rejection, each loss is meant to serve you. Because if you don't know those feelings of loss, those feelings of sadness, how will you ever know great happiness? Like I feel like I smile so big and bright because I know what it feels like to just be on the complete opposite side of that. And it's not necessarily that I don't want to feel it again, because I'll understand it'll happen again. Like emotions happen, you know? But it's just how I want to navigate the world. Like I'm not reactive to it anymore. I just observe it now. Anything I react towards is just like I'm taking personally, and I have to be accountable for that. Like if I lost a job and I'm crying about it, I'm choosing to cry about it. Like, of course, it's also great to cry about it and then realize that it's good for you. Like, that is normal. That's me, literally. Like, but please understand that, like, if you're in a series of ruts, it's because you are believing you are deserving of those series of ruts. And I'm saying that out of pure experience, okay? It literally took until I had my therapist to realize that one thing I said about the abandonment wound and having them choose someone else, not realizing that was a wound. Like healing is so not linear to that point where I'm just like, like I thought I healed from that one event like a couple months after that, but here I am still holding on to like that thought of what that did to me and what it triggered. So it's okay to realize that like you can experience something a year later, but the way you react to it will be different because you will be different unless you choose not to change. I find that you can really see who chooses who constantly chooses the life of misery versus someone who's trying to just live in the present. Because it's hard though, like I completely understand. Like I came from like victim mentality till I was 24. And I can't imagine for people holding on to it longer than that and experiencing life still in that mindset, like it's so sad to think that, everything is out to hurt you. Everything is against you in this life. Like it's not supposed to be like that. You were just taught that. And then you were reenacting it because that's what you were taught. But once you become aware of it and then you try to teach yourself actively every day, rewiring about how to see it in a different light, that's different. Like me, I came from such a heavy victim mentality to the point where like my control issues were insane. Like I wanted to control even how people were feeling around me. And like when I didn't know everything, like it would ruin my day. And that's kind of that type of victim mentality is so bad for you. Like you just feel so attacked all the time. Like I would be so offended by what celebrities were doing. And now I'm on the other side of it being like, I don't care what anyone's doing, like nothing affects me, nothing, unless I choose it. So that's so crazy that I came from that. So that's why I'm so passionate about this, and I truly believe anyone can get out of it if you want to. That's why I'm saying you will get out of the dark times when you're ready and if you want to. Because internally when you'd be ready to let go of something. It's your choice though to constantly hold on to it or not. It gets so much harder when you are actively holding on to it though, because you're adding more narratives to that story to like amplify those thoughts. So I think the best, sometimes I get overwhelmed when I'm like, how can I share this with people? How can I teach this to anyone? But all I can eventually end up saying is just awareness. There's only so much I'm saying, but it's out of my own experience. And if the teachings correlate with you, that's amazing because we're all connected in some way. But, in the essence, in general, I am just awareness. We are just awareness. We are all having an experience. We all experience essentially the same things, just played out differently. Like we all experience the same emotions. We all experience loss, love, grief, gratitude, and moments that bring those on. We experience celebrations. We experience passings. Like there's so much cycle of life that we all experience. The point is to raise awareness so you know that everyone's experiencing exactly what you are. The rest of the teachings that you may experience, that you can find through other people, but you can learn through yourself, because everything that I've not gonna say that, just a lot of what I know is through experience. So once you just kind of tap into like, okay, this is what I learned from that, this is what I'm taking from that, I'm letting it go, you know? And then with people, it could be with traits, you know? The things that you say about people are exactly the narrative you have inside. So if you're saying like negative things to someone, that's what you're saying inside. If you're saying positive things, that's what you're saying inside. So like it's all a mirror, like all these traits and stuff. You're like, oh my gosh, I love that leader, I love that really sweet, kind person. You're like, that means a part of you believes those are your traits too. So if you're saying someone's like all these bad words, in an essence, that's exactly what you believe in yourself, because you don't know vocabulary unless you're familiar with it. So, you know, the constant words that you say are the constant words that are going through your head. So it's good to just be around like things that you want in your life. So if you want negativity, you'll get it. But I think just being really aware of your choices and really knowing the intentions behind your choices are just exactly how you can kickstart this transformation, or just kickstart your awareness. Is just to ask yourself why you're doing something, just randomly. If you're just like, oh, I'm on autopilot doing this, be like, why am I doing this? And then it will literally uncover so much from there when you start asking yourself why. Like once I started asking myself why when like my grandpa passed. I was like, what is this teaching me? And then because I was already curious about life in general, but then when I saw that, and then I came into like a spiritual understanding eventually about it, I was just like, his passing was so sudden and such a surprise to everyone in my family, including me. And I think it served the purpose because we all were so attached to his role in our family and attached to like just that in general. So it's just so crazy to start experiencing that, because then I was like, okay, if we're so attached to what his role was, what did I rely on him for? And then it just went on this whole thing for my experience, and I was like, oh my gosh, you know? So it's good. I believe in you. You got this. And if you watched to the end of this video, thank you. This is my second time around explaining my year. I feel like I reflected it good, but honestly, ending notes, I am just so proud of who I became and am becoming. Like, I am so grateful for everything I learned, everything I experienced this year, all those hard times. I am so fucking strong now. And as much as I hated hearing that, like when I was homeless, because I heard that often, it drove me crazy. It drove me so crazy, because often a lot of people who get called strong don't like hearing it, because we didn't choose that. We were made to be that. So that's how I took it when I was homeless. I was like, I didn't choose this, I didn't want it. But now I'm just like, no, like that made me know my self-worth on a whole nother level. Like this whole year, I intended for this year to figure out my self-worth, and I found it. Like found it to the point where like I will bite off the heads of people who even try me, you know, but not in a like a attacking way, but more of like I protect myself well. But I'm very open to connections. But you know what I mean? It's just for the people who try to take advantage, like for the energy vampires. That's just who I mean it for. Thanks for watching. Set flames emojis if you watch this all, and put below like something you want to embody this year, like within yourself, and not like, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym more, not in a New Year's resolution type of way, more like I am going to be this year. Like last year, for example, I walked into the new year being like, I want to figure out my self-worth. I'm going to figure out my self-worth this year. So this year, after this video, I'm actually, since I just did this whole reflection and now I'm into this reflection mode, I'm going to figure out what I want to embody for this year. And I was gonna get into more of a video to explain like what I'm planning. Okay, let me just talk about it real quick. So I was actually intending for this video to talk about what I want to do for next year. Like, I want to embody each of the zodiac's energies. So when it's like Taurus season, I want to embody like Taurus energies and see how it works for me, and like what my life is shaping like during that time of the year, and just kind of put like an awareness of it. So I'm gonna do like a quick little monthly update at the end of each month to like see how the energies played out and stuff. It's gonna be such a nice experiment. I love doing it. It's gonna be like the weekly planets one, but for the whole year. I was gonna talk about how each of the zodiac's energies went into this year, but I actually did that for the previous video, and it just didn't really like fly with me, only because I wasn't aware that's what I was doing throughout this year. So now that I'm aware that's what I want to do next year, it'll flow more easily. I'm so excited. But thank you. I hope this helps you get to your reflection mode too. Journaling helps so much, and I used to just be like, I can only journal with this, but honestly, after my accident and starting to journal now, I journal on my laptop. I still write things down and stuff to practice, but also like I actually am writing and just like really using it, but I'm not trying to journal with it in this state, only because it might be a perfection thing, but I just really want to see my handwriting be really nice before I get into journaling again. But also I've been thinking of getting a planner by Orline real soon, because her planners follow like the moon phases and stuff. So I'm actually gonna get that and then continue journaling on my laptop, because journaling on my laptop is also giving me some sort of peace, because yeah, I don't know how to, but this video is getting into a really long one. I'm just so energetic right now, but also I don't know how I'm feeling, and I think I'm just trying to blabber my head off. But anyways, thank you for sharing space with me. I hope 2023 is gonna be an amazing year for you. It's the year of 7, it's the year of magic, it's the year of just getting in touch with yourself. It's fucking fun. Let's make life fun again. Let's make my like exciting. No more of that routine shiznit, because clearly everything's super outdated. Like, the government can't even handle its outdated systems going on right now. Like, take everything into your own hands, no matter what that kind of looks like for you. Give less power to those in control and give more to yourself, whether that's in your house environment, work environment, anything. Just empower yourselves a little bit more. Not just this year, but I'm just saying in general, empower yourselves.